Hey everybody, welcome back to our podcast. This is Murder with My Husband. I'm Payton Moreland.
And I'm Garrett Moreland.
And he's the husband.
And I'm the husband.
Before we get over into Garrett's 10 seconds, I just want to take a second to thank every single one of you who supports our podcast. Thank you for listening every week. Thank you for reviewing. Thank you for leaving comments. It really means so much to us. I can't even believe this community that we get to be a part of, and it's all because of you guys. So thank you, thank you, thank you.
And then also, as this episode is coming out, a bonus episode will be coming out in a couple of days. As well, you probably see on the feed, there is something called Dear Daisies. We are doing those. Those are available for everybody. We're going to do one a month right now. It's your guys' stories, your guys' situations that you've been in. Please write them into us. Please tell us more so we can keep doing those. And again, we're going to release those once a month. And for Patreon and Apple subscriptions, you get 2 bonus episodes that we do every single month and ad-free content for Murder with My Husband, Binged, Rise in Crime, all of it. So if you're interested, go and check it out.
Okay.
That will lead me into my 10 seconds. So Payton and I spent a ton of time working in the studio. This last week, we still have some more lights to add. It probably won't look that much different, but it looks different to us.
Yeah. For those of you that don't know, we have this huge light that hangs above us, and it used to just be held up by poles, but Garrett, he climbed up there in the attic, and he hung that light from the ceiling.
Yeah, I mean, I scare you?
Yes.
Jeez.
Jump scare.
Yeah, so I climbed up in the ceiling. I made a track, put the light on the track, put the light in the ceiling, and a couple of studs, 2x4s, just the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So it's up there. It's holding good. We're feeling good. We feel like we have more room in the studio.
Yeah. We ate lunch in here just so we could bask in it.
It's amazing. And off that note, I would like to say that we saw Guardians of the Galaxy 3, and it was
awful.
Amazing. Amazing. If
Awful.
you haven't seen it yet and you're a Marvel fan, go and see it.
Nope. 0 out of 10 recommend. Do not go see
Payton
it.
cried like 95% of the time.
Oh my gosh. I bawled the entire movie, looked at Garrett in the middle, said, take me home. I don't want to sit here anymore.
I said, I'll tell you what, you go wait in the lobby with those 13-year-olds. They'll be out in a bit. No, but it was really good. It was good. There were some sad parts. I don't know if you would call it animal cruelty. It's like they're like fake animals. And they died just in I'm not going to spoil it. Basically, if you haven't seen Guardians of the Galaxy 3, go see it. And Payton will probably go with you.
Oh my gosh. Scarred for the next couple days. Couldn't stop thinking about it. That's how bad it was.
Yeah. And it is currently my birthday. We are recording
on
my birthday, Friday, May 26th, 1994.
Okay.
All the 94s.
Mother's maiden name.
Social security number, credit card numbers, anything you want, let me know. But we're recording on my birthday, and I'm going to try to get Payton to play some pickleball with me. I can't go crazy yet because of my foot, but I can move a little bit.
Oh, I've been watching so much pickleball. I think I'm going to jump immediately in and be a pro.
So we'll see. I'm going to go play with her probably after this. And so let's get into today's episode, and we will go play some pickleball.
Our case sources are foxnews.com, CBS News, Alaska Public Media, oxygen.com, Find a Grave, darkdowneast.com, Fairbanks Daily News, newspapers.com, Detroit Free Press, sunjournal.com, Anchorage Daily News, and News Center, Maine. Okay, this is an Alaskan case.
Okay.
And I think we have done maybe 1 or 2, but it's definitely not like Florida, where there's just an insane case coming from there every week. So This one is a little different because it's over in Alaska. But I'm transporting us back to 1991 in Fairbanks, Alaska, where the population is 31,000 people. The number of violent crimes per capita in Fairbanks is slightly above the average for the state of Alaska, but the total numbers are still quite low given the relatively low population.
Okay.
For instance, there were only 2 murders in Fairbanks in the year 1992. And to move even further away from murder, our case takes place in the woodsy, forested area of the University of Alaska Fairbanks, or UAF. And as of 1993, no one had been killed on the UAF campus for the past 20 years. The last murder was in 1972. And the woodsy setting gives a feeling of security and safety to families who are hoping to send their kids to college in a less urban, less dangerous location than where they may have come from elsewhere in the U.S. But some students who attend UAF have the exact opposite issue. They come from tiny, remote villages that are scattered all around Alaska. And such was the case for a young female student of UAF named Sophie Sergie. Interestingly, Sophie was born in 1972. If you remember, that was the last time there was a murder. Mm-hmm. And she comes from a tiny, very remote Native American village in Alaska. She is Yupik Native American and grew up in Pitca's Point, which is comprised of 100% Native American, and in 2020 had a population of only 130 people. According to USDA.gov, in 2011, the water and wastewater conditions in Pitca's Point and other Alaskan communities are staggering. Drinking water is hauled from local watering points, which clearly do not meet safe drinking water standards, and wastewater is hauled by utilizing honey buckets. So the same path that kids play and walk to and from school is the same route that individuals routinely walk with their 5-gallon buckets of wastewater to honey bucket transfer stations.
Okay.
So just a very remote village. Mm-hmm. So for Sophie, heading the 500 miles east to University of Alaska Fairbanks was quite an adjustment from the life she grew up in. Sophie is very petite, standing only 4'9" or 4'11", depending on the source. Her mother is Elena Sergie, and she has a little brother named Steven, who she helps take care of as he's only 3 years old. She also has an older brother who's in the Navy. And speaking of the Navy, Sophie originally aspires to join the Navy like her older brother, but she's too short in stature to be eligible for the position she wants in the Navy.
Got it.
So she instead decides to attend college, the first to ever do so in her family, and study marine biology. Sophie is incredibly bright and studious and driven, and she makes everyone in her town proud when she receives a full-ride scholarship to UAF. She is a serious student, and she knows that her success is extremely important to her family and her village. And although described as shy, Sophie has friends, but she is not a partier by any sense in college. She does make one particularly good friend, a girl named Shirley Wasuli, whom she meets through an organization called Rural Student Services.
No way.
Yeah, that provides support for students making the adjustment from places like Pitca's Point to the large UAF campus, which is such a cool service that the college provides. And with her new friend and work ethic, Sophie begins making the adjustment into college, and she actually completes her first 2 years at the university. But by April 1993, Sophie has to take a leave of absence for medical and family reasons. Sophie has been suffering from a severe overbite and needs major orthodontic work and jaw surgery to correct it. And on top of that, her mother is having her own medical issues and needs help taking care of Sophie's little brother. So once home, the surgery that Sophie needs is expensive, and so she gets a job needing the health insurance that an employer back home can provide in order to help pay for the surgery. So basically she moves home and gets a job because she needs that health insurance to get the surgery. Okay. Sophie works at a school in nearby St. Mary's as a clerk and academic aide during this time. The jaw surgery itself, plus all of the appointments and follow-up work, are all actually happening in Fairbanks. So Sophie will be flying back and forth to Fairbanks even while on leave from school. So she's at school in Fairbanks, but she moves home, but then she has to fly back to Fairbanks to get to these follow-up appointments and the actual appointment itself. And for financial considerations, instead of paying for a place to stay, Sophie typically stays with her friend Shirley at UAF when she flies back to go to these appointments. So Sophie's ultimate plan is to eventually go back to UAF in the fall of 1993 after her surgery and her mom is a little bit better. She really does want to resume her college studies. So at UAF, there is a 3-dorm complex, which is made up of Bartlett Hall, Moore Hall, and Scarland Hall. Now, Bartlett Hall is 8 stories high and sits between the 2 other dorms. And the 3 halls are separate structures on their upper floors, but they have a common lobby. And roughly 670 students live in the 3-hall complex. Back in 1993, the 2nd floor of Bartlett Hall is for girls only. The floors back then are designated either all male or all female. However, opposite-sex visitors are allowed on various floors, and because it's an all-girl floor, the boys have to use the dorm's women's bathroom while visiting. So It wasn't uncommon to see a boy in the dorm bathroom like during the day or even in the night. Mm-hmm. And although there hadn't been a murder on campus for 20 years at the time of our story, that didn't mean there wasn't any crime on campus. In 1991, a female student is the victim of an attack and an attempted rape in a bathroom in the adjoining Scarland Hall. And just to give you a glimpse of the state of campus security at UAF back during our story, in 1989, due to budget constraints, UAF stops having clerks at the desks, and all that people have to do to gain entry into the dorms is to follow a resident in through the locked doors, which I did this in college as well. You just wait for someone to open the door. In about February of 1993, another sexual assault is reported by a female student. The victim says that 2 basketball players raped her while another one watched. And later in February 1993, in another incident, quote, a drunken naked man was found in the woman's bathroom at Bartlett.
Student?
No.
Just a random man?
Yeah, and the man is arrested after he was found on the 4th floor bathroom.
Okay.
But this is just to show you how little security is going on at these dorms and how easy it is to gain access. So in April 1993, Sophie has another appointment in Fairbanks relating to her jaw surgery. So her plan is to stay with her friend and former roommate Shirley at Bartlett Hall, where Shirley's now living. Shirley's room is on the 2nd floor of Bartlett Hall, which, as I mentioned, is designated for female students only. Shirley is living in a single dorm room, so she doesn't have a roommate. And when Sophie comes to visit that April, Shirley decides to give Sophie the keys to her single room while she stays at the next dorm over with her boyfriend, so that Sophie will have a comfortable and private place to stay.
I was going to say, I'm sure they sleep over at each other's apartments all the time.
Yeah. So on Friday, April 23rd, 1993, Sophie flies from her village of Pitca's Point to Bethel, then on to Anchorage, where she stays overnight. Then on Saturday, Sophie flies on from Anchorage to Fairbanks. And after she arrives back at UAF for the weekend, Sophie visits with her friend, Joanne Sundown, who takes a photo of her while the two are hanging out in Sundown's room. Sophie's medical appointment in Fairbanks is scheduled for that Monday, April 26th, 1993. After this, Sophie and Shirley have lunch together that Saturday on campus, and then they hang out together in Shirley's room, which is room 227 in Bartlett Hall.
Okay.
Next, Sophie goes into town to pick up some things in Fairbanks that are harder to find in her small village back home. The next day, Sunday, April 25th, Shirley, Sophie's friend, has finals coming up, and so she needs to study. So although her friend's visiting, she's like, hey, girl, I got to get some studying in. So while Shirley is busy studying, Sophie goes to the movies and spends time with some other friends, including Sundown. And I think it's just like a girl who went to college here is on a leave of absence, but she goes back. She still has all these friends who are in college. She's just hanging out with all of them. Sophie and the 3 friends go to a movie titled Indian Summer and then go for a drive to the Murphy Dome recreation area where it's possible to see the Northern Lights. So her friends drop her off at the end of the evening back at Bartlett Hall. Sophie wasn't partying, she wasn't drinking, she wasn't doing drugs. Then late that Sunday night, Shirley and Sophie meet up in Shirley's room. Shirley and her boyfriend, Noah Naylor, have a pizza delivered to Shirley's room, and they eat it with Sophie on the floor of the dorm room. The dorms this weekend are full as finals week is approaching, so every student is at school. The 3 friends finish eating the pizza at about 1 a.m. on what's now Monday, April 26th. And as usual, Sophie's going to stay in Shirley's room, and Shirley's going to stay with her boyfriend in his room. Sophie is wearing what's described as a Native American style sweater with a hood. It's bright and multicolored. She's also wearing her older brother's navy sweatpants. And just before Shirley and Noah leave to go to his room for the night, Sophie asks where she can go have a cigarette. She doesn't want to smoke in Shirley's room, and given that it's Alaska in April, it's too cold to comfortably smoke outside. So Shirley suggests that Sophie should smoke in the girls' bathroom down the hall.
I'm surprised there is just zero moderation, it seems, at all.
In the dorms. I kind of agree.
Like no security, no RA, isn't that what they're called?
Yeah, like the people who...
Yeah, the managers.
Are the HOAs of the floor?
Basically, yeah.
Yeah,
It just seems like there's zero moderation. You and I didn't live in dorms, so we don't know. But I don't know, it seems like there's nothing going on.
I feel like if it's not called an RA, we are going to get absolutely obliterated.
Yeah, if
it... What is it? I know the name. Like, I know what you're thinking.
It's fine. Just send us an email.
We didn't live in dorms. We didn't live in dorms. Don't send an email.
Yeah, just pretend that it's right, please.
Okay, so she suggests that she should smoke in the girls' bathroom. Shirley tells her the bathroom has fans and vents that will take the cigarette smoke right out of the bathroom, so that's why she suggests she smoke there. So Sophie then leaves, and she leaves Shirley and Noah in Shirley's dorm room. At about 1:30 a.m., the couple walks out of Shirley's dorm heading for Noah's. They leave a note for Sophie to say that they're now gone for the night. And they have to leave the note because although they waited to say goodnight in person, Sophie hasn't yet returned from her smoke. So Shirley and Noah walk down the hall to the stairwell and they see 3 people, 2 male, 1 female, still out and about at this hour. One man Shirley sees in the hall is a stranger to her. She doesn't know him. She doesn't think he lives there. Okay. They make eye contact as she leaves. And unbeknownst to her, Shirley will never see Sophie, her friend, alive again.
So she went to the bathroom to smoke, never came back.
Well, she left to smoke.
Okay. We didn't know if she was going to the bathroom for sure.
Yes. I mean, Shirley said go to the bathroom. So we're assuming that's where she went.
Got it.
And I think it's important to note here, now that we know that possibly Sophie went to the dorm bathroom, that according to Death in Bartlett Hall, quote, in those days, the lights in the bathrooms could be shut off by anyone standing by the entrance. So you could be taking a shower and someone could walk in and turn the lights off on you.
Yep. Okay.
And the bathroom on the 2nd floor of Bartlett Hall also has several individual shower stalls. And then one of those stalls has a bathtub. And the stall with the
bathtub.
Yes, and the stall, again, it's the 90s. I don't think that would happen now. The stall with the bathtub has like a swing door to get into it, but it's completely separate from from the other stalls. So after Shirley leaves, a girl who also lives on floor 2 in the dorm takes a shower in the 2nd floor bathroom in the stall that shares a wall with the one with the tub. And the female student hears some noises coming from that stall that she describes as, quote, thumping and muffled voices. But this is college. Nobody's going to go open that door to that stall and check what's going on when you hear muffled voices and thumping coming from the tub shower stall. So it's now Monday morning.
Oh, that sucks.
Sophie is scheduled to have her appointment that Monday and then fly back home. Shirley comes back to her dorm room at about 8:50 a.m. after sleeping at her boyfriend's and is surprised and unsettled to find the bed made and not looking at all slept in. The note she left for Sophie at 1:30 a.m. is still hanging on the door right where she left it. And the lights in her room are on, so is the TV. In fact, it all looks exactly as when Shirley and her boyfriend left the room at 1:30 a.m. So Shirley decides to go to the bathroom to check and see if Sophie is possibly awake and taking a shower. Shirley calls inside the bathroom. Sophie, are you here? And according to one source, Shirley hears a voice say, yeah, I'm here. Oh. No other sources confirm this.
Okay. That's really confusing.
And seems really important. In any event, Shirley herself then takes a shower and goes back to her room and gets ready for the day.
Because here's the thing. If she said, yeah, I'm here, I feel like there'd be more of a conversation than just that.
Right. Or did someone else say, yeah, I'm here? Or was there another Sophie?
Else?
I don't know.
Yeah, it's confusing.
However, the fact that Shirley hasn't heard from Sophie as the day wears on, it feels wrong to her. She starts asking people if they've seen Sophie that day. Shirley even calls the orthodontist where Sophie was set to have her appointment, and she finds out that Sophie was a no-show. So clearly something is very wrong. Sophie would never travel all the way to Fairbanks and then miss that appointment. And while at class on campus that day, Shirley then hears a rumor that will confirm her fears. People are whispering around campus that the police are at Bartlett Hall and that they found a body in the second floor bathroom.
Okay.
So it was on the afternoon of Monday at 2:42 p.m. that UAF janitors are cleaning the bathroom on the east side of the second floor of Bartlett Hall. There, one of the janitors comes upon a shocking scene when they open the door to the bathtub stall. It's a girl's body in the bloody bathtub.
Ugh.
Her pants have been left pulled down around her ankles.
Okay.
According to Death in Bartlett Hall, the janitor runs out of the bathroom screaming. And the horrible truth is that female students have been in and out of that very bathroom all morning.
And I'm sure no one uses the bathtub as well.
Right.
So no one's going to check.
But it's incredibly eerie because that girl's body has been
sitting there
in the private tub while
horrible.
Everyone else has been showering and using the bathroom.
Mm-hmm.
The campus police and medical staff are immediately called. Investigators, housing staff, and medical staff will respond to the scene, and possibly students will come to the scene as well. According to one source, 19 people are on the scene before the arrival of James McCann, the lead Alaska State Trooper investigator who will take on the case. Shirley rushes to her dorm room once she hears the news about the police and the rumor that a girl's body has been found in the bathroom on her floor. A police officer stops her at the entrance of Bartlett Hall and tells her she can't go up to her room. This is when Shirley explains that her friend may be missing. She's like, listen, I live here. I last saw my friend here and I think she might be missing. After discussing further, Shirley and the police officer realize that they're likely talking about the same girl. Shirley presents the police with Sophie's ID card, which was still in Shirley's dorm room. And using the ID card, police make a heartbreaking confirmation. The murdered girl in the bathtub stall is, in fact, Sophie Sergie.
It's so crazy to me that there can be so many people around and somebody gets murdered.
Right.
Just right there in the bathroom.
Investigators and forensic experts amass at the dorm searching for evidence. They're at the dorm until at least 9 p.m. that night. The Alaska State Troopers are busy canvassing the dorm looking for witnesses, and somehow no one the police talked to actually heard or witnessed the attack, which this might not seem strange until you learn how Sophie died.
Okay.
Sophie was shot in the back of the head in that shower stall the morning of Monday, April 26th, 1993.
There is no way that nobody hears that.
Shot
There's no way.
in the back of the head in a public dorm bathroom, and no one heard a gunshot. No one heard screams or a struggle. Investigators have difficulty even knowing who all had been present on the second floor at the time of the murder, given that the dorm room was full of students who were walking around room to room, floor to floor, many of whom were drinking. I mean, this is college. This is a college dorm room.
This is exactly why you have security as well.
Right.
Or some type of organization.
An autopsy is ordered, but even before the results are in, everyone knows this is clearly a homicide. And trigger warning, this is going to get a little graphic, but this is how Sophie's body was found, as detailed later in a document written by criminal authorities. Quote, the tub room was a small, separate room next to the shower stalls in the east bathroom. The tub room had a shower stall type swinging door at the entrance of it. Sergie's body was found lying on her back in the bathtub with her legs together and bent over to her left. Her feet were in contact with the bottom of the tub. She was wearing shoes and socks. Her pants and underpants had been pulled down past her knees. The right cup of her bra had been pushed up, exposing her breast. The left side of her face was lying against the bottom of the tub over the drain. Her arms were above her head. She had multiple stab wounds on the right side of her face, and her face was covered in dried blood. Sophie's clothing and hair were damp, indicating that the water had been run after she was placed in the tub. And when her body was removed from the tub, investigators discovered she had also been shot in the back of the head. Under her body, in the tub drain, investigators recovered Sophie's cigarette lighter.
And I feel like there's no way there was no screaming, considering she was stabbed in the face.
Right. The police begin questioning many people. Surely this case is going to be solved quickly. Like, this happened in a dorm. There's hundreds of people nearby.
No way.
The university reacts with horror and shock and grief at the news. The flags are flown at half-staff, and a large memorial is held for Sophie on campus. Shirley Wasuli is one of the speakers, her friend. She reads letters from Sophie's mother and her friends back home, and she also speaks her own words. Quote, "It's important to know how much Sophie enjoyed life. Don't be bitter. We should continue to pray for the person who took Sophie away from us." One of Sophie's university professors pays a tribute as well, speaking as to how Sophie always asked questions and wanted to learn more. But at this point, police don't even know if the killer lives in the dorm or is an outsider. The lax security for gaining entrance to the dorms and to the women's floors make it difficult to know.
I am sure that there have been multiple events before where there have been non-students or random people in the dorms, and you would think that after that, they would fix everything.
Maybe after the naked man that was found in the bathroom just months before.
You would just, I don't know, you would assume that they would fix something or get some sort of security.
Right. At this point, students are in fear and calls to campus security and for campus escorts skyrocket. The university provides counseling and a telephone hotline for students and parents to call. As a short-term solution to the obvious security issues, the campus police announced that they'll be working extra hours to patrol the dorms until the killer is caught. And as of Tuesday, April 27th, the next day, the university has installed no additional security measures for Bartlett Hall or for the bathrooms. So still, no one is checking identification of visitors to the dorm.
Also, how many people went through the bathroom?
At least 19 before the lead investigator got there.
That completely corrupts,
right?
Like, so much evidence.
Yes. Access to the student floors and bathrooms remained as simple as following a resident through the locked main door. A former residential advisor... Wait, is that an RA?
Yeah, so it is an RA. I told you. Yeah.
A former residential advisor is quoted as saying, the funny thing is I wrote that and didn't realize it was RA. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's been an accident waiting to happen. I'm not surprised that it hasn't happened sooner. He says he and the other RAs had asked for more security in the dorms, but that their requests were denied. At a residents' meeting several weeks ago, it was suggested that locks be put up on the bathroom, but no action was taken. So just weeks before this, at a meeting, someone had suggested they put locks on the bathroom.
Oh, man, this school's going to get a load of heat for this.
Yeah. At this point, there's only 1 week of school left, and final exams are about to start. At least 60 students leave the dorm within 2 days of the murder, which I'm only including this because there's your suspects who would normally live, who are there, whose friends are there. Gone. They're leaving, and so this is hard for the investigation. Another difficulty is that along with the university's budget issues, the police have one as well. They're short on detectives to investigate a murder case. Crime Stoppers offer $20,000 for any information leading to the killer's arrest. But one problem facing investigators is that there are no obvious suspects, no one who would want to harm Sophie. She had no enemies, no jealous exes. Investigators follow up leads on many people who could possibly have done this or had been present, had the opportunity, but it leads nowhere.
And of course, there are no cameras.
No cameras. So at this point, police decide Sophie probably did not know her attacker, and this was just a random attack. They believe that any girl that had been in the bathroom at that time could have been the victim.
I assume, you kind of foreshadowed at it a little bit. The guy that Shirley saw, maybe he has something to do with it.
Yeah, because it was a stranger in the dorms.
Maybe you're foreshadowing, maybe not. Just throwing that out there.
I'm just telling you the story as it
All
goes.
right, let's hear it.
So on Tuesday night, Native American students hold a prayer meeting. This will be the second memorial on campus for Sophie. And around this time, Sophie's autopsy is performed and semen is found.
Okay.
So the swabs will be sent to the Alaska State Crime Detention Laboratory, but at this time, Alaska is not yet using DNA technology. So they swab it, they keep it, but they're not going to be testing it.
Dang, you think that there would be like, okay, let's send this to California, Oregon, Washington.
Right.
Let's have them test it for us.
Yeah, well, priority.
Yeah, it's hard, I know.
So as of Sunday, May 2nd, it's reported that the university is now checking identification. So after a week, they decide to start checking identification.
Good job, everybody.
And they're also urging students to lock their doors because according to most sources, students just left their dorm room doors unlocked.
It's funny. It's sad that it takes something like this for precautions to be in place. It's horrible.
However, other exterior doors to the dorms are often propped open, making access still easy for anyone to get in. Sergeant Jim McCann of the Alaska State Troopers speaks to the media around this time, a little less than 2 weeks after Sophie's murder. And he announces that the police have recovered fingerprints, hair, and other physical evidence from the crime scene, but that they still don't have a suspect. He said, quote, "Whoever did this is very, very angry at women." Which, thank you, Mr. McCann. I agree. Whoever it was, he fit in. So he says that this wasn't like some old man. He thinks that this was someone who would have fit in the dorm rooms.
Okay.
Sergeant McCann announces that the police believe the killer is quite familiar with the location. He also announces that an unusually low number of leads have been called in, only 10 so far. He warns people to remain vigilant and announces that the killer may not be isolated to just the university and that the public should be at large as well. Commencement for the university is held on May 9th. Students begin scattering all over after the end of the school year, with many graduating. It will make the investigation even harder. Alaska State Troopers announce that they haven't made an arrest and that leads have dwindled, and the killer who committed this heinous crime right in the midst of a dorm room full of students is still on the loose and sadly will remain so. In April 1994, a year after Sophie's murder, Sophie's mother, Elena Sergie, sues the University of Alaska on behalf of herself and Sophie's brother, seeking $4 million in damages.
I don't blame her.
Alleging that the university was negligent and that its poor security was to blame for Sophie's death. But here's the issue. What if the danger came from within? What if a student living in the dorms is the killer?
That's true.
Then that's not necessarily on the school.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And so now you see where this civil case is going to go back and forth because the school says it hasn't been solved. We don't know that it was our fault. And she says, no matter what, it was your fault.
Okay.
Sophie's mother's lawsuit is intended in part to prevent this atrocity from happening to anyone else. And sure enough, Sophie's rape and murder forces the university to address the serious safety issues that existed in 1993. By 1995, bathroom lights are kept on 24/7, and emergency phones are in every student's room. Also at night and on weekends, people entering the dorms can only go in one door, which is monitored. The university also begins arming its campus police. In June 1996, 3 years after the murder, it's reported that Sophie's family, through their lawyers, are demanding more information and for law enforcement to be more transparent with details about her case. 3 years in, the state still has no suspect, hasn't ever, and has made no arrests.
I mean, how do you find somebody?
Especially, I feel like this is a case where
I don't know what you do.
If it wasn't solved immediately, it's going to be a while.
Yeah. Unless they test the semen and it happens to come back to someone's DNA that's in the system anyways, because if it's not even in the system, it's not even going to make hits on anything. I don't know how you solve this.
Well, and we're still years away from CODIS.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know.
So
I don't know what you do.
You're still years away from even being able to test it against the system.
Yeah.
And the case goes cold. Her unsolved rape and murder, quote, became in many ways the symbol of Alaskan violence against women. She was one of over 200 Alaska Native women who have been killed in similar acts of violence. Her death was a well-publicized tragedy and a real concern among UAF students who realized they might have a rapist and a killer in their midst. It was obvious that a killer had ready access to the most vulnerable buildings of the sprawling campus. This is all from Copper River Country Journal. It's reported in late December 1996 that, not surprisingly, the university is still trying to settle the lawsuit. This is not a case that they want to be fighting in open court. Settlement negotiations between Sophie's mother and the university have been ongoing, and Sophie's mother still seeks additional information from state authorities relating to her daughter's case. A government attorney states that there's a gag order, meaning none of the parties can talk to the press. Meanwhile, as for the criminal investigation, state investigators are frustrated with the lack of leads. They want to try a fresh approach.
Why is there a gag order? Why would there be a gag order?
Because it became so public. She almost became the face of danger at the school. And so the school didn't want any more publicity on the case. And so it was probably just a bunch of fighting back and forth, and eventually there was a gag order. It's not uncommon for gag orders to happen in civil suits.
It just seems like usually there's a gag order when there's something to discuss, and there's nothing to discuss, so it seems like the school's just pissed off, embarrassed. The police don't have any leads, so it's like, oh, let's put a gag order on this. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It just seems a little interesting.
Yeah, it definitely seems like it's more to hurt
her
side.
Exactly.
Yes.
100%.
So the criminal investigation decides to turn to the internet, which is in its infancy for law enforcement. Law enforcement announces in late December 1996 that they're going to post an announcement about Sophie's case, quote, on the World Wide Web.
That's so funny.
To find out whether any similar types of cases have happened elsewhere. But it's crazy that they're like, oh, let's use this internet thing, this World Wide Web, to see if, because at this point, law enforcement aren't working with each other. I mean, it's crazy that still in the 90s this was happening.
I know.
Their announcement will include a photo of Sophie and a short description of the crime.
That's not that long ago.
No.
25 years ago?
No. Law enforcement believes that Sophie's rape and murder was committed by someone who's likely to be a serial rapist and killer. Like, someone doesn't come into these dorms, shoot someone in the back of the head in a dorm room and not go kill and rape elsewhere.
I still can't believe that nobody heard anything.
Right. Sergeant Jim McCann announces that he thinks the murderer will strike again or already has. I'm hoping to reach thousands of people via the World Wide Web, McCann says. I don't like having an unsolved sexual murder. In May 2000, law enforcement processes the DNA from the semen found in Sophie's body with what is now a more sophisticated advanced technology than ever existed before. Authorities develop a DNA profile from the semen and load it into CODIS. And although they have an advanced DNA profile, it doesn't generate a match to any offenders in the state or federal systems.
I was worried that was going to happen.
Well, and contrary to their belief that this could be the work of a serial killer or rapist, this killer is not in the system. This development is very frustrating, and the case grows cold again.
That sucks. It sucks that the technology wasn't there. There is nothing else that can be done. Like, it sucks for the that sucks. It's horrible for the family. You're just sitting there going, sitting on your hands.
Right.
There's nothing you can do.
So despite all the investigators' valiant efforts at trying to compare DNA, Sophie's case goes cold again in 2003. But the police never give up. Detectives and investigators attempt to interview every single person who was in Bartlett Hall that night, which is difficult since so many have scattered. A new investigator is assigned to the case in 2009, investigator James Stogsdill, who handles cold cases for the Alaska State Troopers. In April 2009, 16 years after the murder, the police announced some new developments. They want to know if anyone saw Sophie standing outside in front of Hess Commons. Quote, following extensive analysis of the crime scene evidence, investigators stated an independent forensic examiner theorized that Sergie may have been killed somewhere other than the bathroom on the second floor.
Interesting.
Although he wasn't able to say conclusively that she was killed elsewhere and brought there. He said we should keep our eyes open for having killed at another location. But to me, this is... how do you then get a body upstairs without anyone seeing?
Yeah, there's no way, right?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I agree. No, there's no way. Especially stabbed, shot. There's no way you can get a body. Yeah.
And also, she didn't want to go outside.
We've talked about this before. But a dead body is not easy to carry.
No. So finally, in 2010, there seems to be a break in the case. Investigator Stogsdill questions an individual named Nicholas Dazer. Dazer had been questioned before, back in 1993 at the time of the murder. It's now 17 years after the murder. Nicholas Dazer lived in room 305 in Bartlett Hall in 1993 with a roommate named Stephen Downs. Both roommates were interviewed at the same time, but weren't able to provide any helpful information. And on top of that, Stephen Downs had an alibi at the time. He had spent the night with his girlfriend. However, police have now found out something very suspicious about the one roommate, Nicholas Dazer. They learned that back then, he was fired from the job that he had on campus as a security guard back when he went to school. He was actually working as a security guard the night of the murder. He even helped police keep the crime scene secure the next day. And guess why he was fired? Because he'd been keeping a personal gun in his dorm room.
All right, red flags. Here we go.
Guns aren't allowed in the dorms. When questioned about it now, in 2010, Dazer admits that he was fired, and he admits that it's true he did have a gun. But when asked, he denies owning a .22 caliber gun. This is the type of gun that that was the murder weapon. Dazer tells police he does know someone, though, who did own a .22 caliber revolver at the time of the murder. His old roommate, Stephen Downs. Investigator Stogstill continues working the case, but he ends up retiring without a concrete suspect, even though he digs into these two boys who lived in Bartlett Hall. The case goes cold again. Eventually, another cold case investigator is assigned to Sophie's case in 2018. His name is Randy McFerrin. At this point, the advent of genealogical testing has come to pass, and they're very popular with the public who wants to learn about their ancestry, and law enforcement in the U.S. begin submitting DNA from cold cases to see if they get a hit with these new sites.
All right, I still think that this is some of the craziest stuff ever, because it's just crazy that it's not, I mean, I want to say it's comical, but it's amazing that there's these killers that are just sitting somewhere thinking, oh, I got away with this. And then their second cousin of their great, just like down the line.
And then Ancestry.com came in and
they
said,
just put their DNA in. All of a sudden, someone's DNA gets uploaded, gets tested, and it's like, oh, we found you.
I also think it's crazy how it kind of happened by accident. It wasn't like someone in law enforcement was like, hey, that's it. Let's create a database that people can come submit, and then we'll see. No. Someone said, wait, could we use 23andMe to find
Ancestry,
a killer?
All this stuff. So it's some of the most amazing technology ever. I love it.
So all they need now with the new technology is a family member's DNA.
Yep.
The lab has completed the analysis, and it submits the biological DNA evidence collected from Sophie's body to a company that is able to run a comparison with the genealogical sites. On October 18th, 2018, 2 promising matches, second cousins or closer.
Oh, I just said second cousin. Look at that.
And 3 potentially promising matches, third cousin or closer, were identified. The lab forwarded this information on to their forensic genealogist to complete the last steps in the process. So, the killer here has never submitted his DNA anywhere, but some of his relatives have.
That's what I'm talking about.
And just like with the Golden State Killer, the police force has finally gotten a match. On December 18th, 2018, the lab has identified the most likely suspect out of the family that matches the DNA. So it's not like they find the killer's DNA, but they get the family and then they go through the family tree and go, no, probably wasn't him.
No, they're like, which one in here
probably wasn't
is a
him,
killer?
But him, it probably is.
He looks like a killer.
Yes. And who do you think this connection is to? Because you already know.
It is going to be the guy that Shirley saw.
Possibly.
Okay, so I just assumed it was just a quick, she doesn't remember him.
Yeah.
But it was him?
Well,
or we assume it was him. So we don't know for sure.
We don't know for sure. I guess it could have been.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then I don't know who it is.
You do.
Okay.
It's Stephen Downs, the security guard's roommate who lived at the dorms and claimed he was with his girlfriend that night.
I see.
They know that the only DNA found in Sophie's body belongs to Downs. I mean, they go through the family tree and go, he lived in the same exact dorm room as her.
100%.
Now they just have to get his DNA to prove it. They're like, we're pretty sure it's him. We just got to get his DNA. The police began investigating Stephen Harris Downs in earnest. He was born on August 31st, 1974 in Maine. He graduates high school in Maine in 1992. He has no criminal history either before or after the crime.
Jeez,
this fact will seriously hamper the investigation because what is the chances it was a one-time thing?
Yeah.
Downs has never previously been arrested. He was a freshman at University of Alaska Fairbanks and was 18 years old at the time of Sophie's murder. He's a student there from 1992 to 1996 and starts in the fall of 1992. After graduating, he lives in Arizona for a while and then he eventually moves home. Once they're on to Downs and found out that he was actually living in Bartlett Hall at the time of Sophie's murder, law enforcement gets a court-approved wiretap to listen to his phone calls and puts him under surveillance with a camera mounted to a pole near his house. They also follow Downs around for a month, waiting him to throw something away. A cup of coffee, a cigarette. Nothing. They can't get his DNA.
Do you think he knows that they're following him?
No. Still with no DNA from him, police go to Downs' home in Maine on February 13th, 2019, and they interview him. They ask about Sophie and the murder. He claims he didn't know Sophie. He says he didn't go to the second floor that night. He was with his girlfriend. He says, I remember pictures of her. I remember the murder, but I don't know her. He was living on the third floor at the time, and again says he spent most of the night with his girlfriend. So law enforcement executes a search warrant at Downs' home the next day. They also get a warrant to obtain a cheek swab from Downs. The DNA sample from Sophie matches the cheek swab they've just obtained from Stephen Downs.
Of course it does.
He's arrested on February 15th, 2009 and taken into custody. Police have now interviewed him for 2 hours on tape, and he just the whole time says, no, I'm innocent, I'm innocent.
If they did not have this DNA, he would never have been caught because he has zero criminal history.
Never.
How would a jury have convicted him?
Right.
Wouldn't have happened.
He's extradited from Maine to face rape and murder charges in Alaska. He's now 44 years old.
Wow.
But he denies knowing her, and police are like, okay, but if you didn't know her, how was your semen found inside her dead body, sir? Like, that doesn't make sense. Downs appears in court for the first time at his arraignment on August 14th, 2019. He pleads not guilty. And I'm going to kind of just fast forward through the trial here. I mean, obviously you have both sides. No fingerprints of his were ever found or anything like that, but his DNA was found in her body.
Yeah, what more do you need?
Tragically, Sophie's mother dies in 2021.
Ugh.
So he'd been arrested, but she still died, not having any justice for her daughter.
Yeah.
The trial is delayed twice because we're now in COVID time, and it ends up being a COVID trial with witnesses appearing remotely over a screen and everyone in the courtroom wearing a mask.
I did not know that was a thing.
The jury begins deliberating on the afternoon of Monday, February 7th, and they deliberate for 4 days. On February 10th, the jury convicts Downs of first-degree rape and first-degree murder, and he's now 47 years old.
4 days?
Yes.
What person in that jury was like, maybe it wasn't him?
Well, they were just taking their job serious.
Come on, man.
I respect it. As reported in CBS News, Sophie's brother Alex describes the relief he feels upon the guilty verdict, despite the fact that his mother had already passed away. This is the first case in Alaska history where a conviction is obtained by using a DNA comparison to genealogical sites.
Wow. That's pretty awesome.
As for the viciousness and senselessness of the crime itself, they go on to say, he committed it against someone he'd never met and committed it for no discernible reason. Sergie is a woman who Downs overpowered in every way, height, weight, and weapons. The way he committed the crime, it's pretty shocking it wasn't caught earlier because this crime is really one that should have been easily detected. It was in a public place with a bathroom stall separating murder from washing and brushing teeth as students came and went, fairly busy with activity.
He never admitted to it?
Never admitted to it.
So we never know, like, if it was outside, inside, he just never admitted to it?
On September 26th, Downs is sentenced. Downs says nothing at his sentencing, but his attorney states that Downs still claims he's innocent. The prosecutor asked the judge to consider the multiple aggravating circumstances, how the defendant used both a knife and a gun, how he prevented a victim from reporting a rape by murdering her to permanently silence her. And as quoted in WABI.TV, the prosecutor says, quote, he committed the crimes with a brazenness that is still unfathomable and said it was shocking that he wasn't caught earlier. The defense, however, asked the judge to be, quote, practical. They go on to say, I think that his life expectancy is not going to be, 103 years old here. Anything in excess of a 20 years.
That was their argument?
Yes.
Oh my God.
They say anything in excess of a 20-year sentence.
Get out of here.
That's going to be bringing him to near the end of his life. The defense excuses his behavior as he was very immature. He was drinking and partying a lot, as much as a fifth of whiskey every night, somehow maintaining his grades, doing a lot, alienated like a lot of 18-year-olds. That's his defense. And it's important to pause here and note.
So stupid.
Other alienated 18-year-olds don't go around raping and stabbing young women in the face. Yeah. So the defense attorney goes on to say that Downs isn't a monster and that with a long sentence, he won't ever be able to hug his parents again. This comment makes the judge mad. The judge responds, since April of 1993, Miss Sergie hasn't been able to hug anybody. No one's been able to hug Miss Sergie. No one will ever hug her again. The judge sentences Downs to 75 years in prison, 67 for the murder plus 8 for the sexual assault. Under Alaska law, if Downs has no problems in prison, he can be released after he serves 1/3 of his sentence, so 25 years. Downs is appealing his conviction and sentence. We'll keep you updated on developments on this case, which is such an amazing example of police work and family persistent for answers that finally leads to some form of justice after how many decades of darkness. But why? That is such a big question here. Why would Downs do this? Why did he do it just one time?
No reason. I mean,
there may never be an answer to these questions, but at least someone has finally been convicted and sentenced for this terrible crime. And may Sophie Sergie rest in peace in Pitca's Point, where she was buried in 1993 next to her grandmother.
It sucks. All these are horrible, but it's just no reason. No, she went to go smoke a cigarette in the bathroom.
She didn't even live
got
there.
Killed.
She didn't even live there. Like, I don't want to say what are the chances, but she was just visiting.
I just, like you said, why? Why did he just kill her?
And then never do it again.
Most likely it's probably he sexually assaulted her, knew he would get caught.
So he killed her.
What a loser. Like, what a just horrible person. I can't.
Yeah. All right, you guys, that is our case for this week. Don't forget to listen to Dear Daisies, and don't forget to sign up for Patreon or subscriptions to get our bonus episode. I love it.
And I hate it.
Goodbye.